Over the years, I already. How have the roles and the powers of the U.S. Supreme Court evolved since the founding period? Over the years, modernization and changes in interpretation have evolved the U.S. Supreme Court. The founders never could predict what would happen 1,000 years after they made the Constitution and Supreme Court, so they made this a system of checking. The system of checking ruled for many later appeals. This led to the use of the writs of certiorari. A writ of certiorari, fucking Christ. What methods of constitutional interpretation do justices commonly use to decide cases? There are four: textualism, literalism, strict construction, which is one, original intent or original history, fundamental principles, and modernization. With textualism, literalism, and strict construction, you look at the meaning of words in the Constitution and give each word or phrase a generic statement. Fuck. God. What methods of constitutional interpretation do justices commonly use to decide cases? There are four: textualism, literalism, and strict construction. That's number one. With that one, you look at the meaning of words and turn them into generic statements. And then the number two would be original intent and original history, which with that one you address the questions of interpreting these words or phrases. And then number three would be fundamental principles, which is looking at the principles that were established with the original To what extent, if any, has the court promoted both common good and individual liberty? Textualism demonstrates common good through the To what extent, if any, has the court promoted both common good and individual liberty? Textualism demonstrates common good through the To what extent, if any, has the court promoted both common good and individual liberty? Textualism demonstrates common good through simplifying the Constitution to layman terms. The original intent or original history. To what extent, if any, has the court promoted both common good and individual liberty? Textualism demonstrates common good through the simplifying of the Constitution into layman terms. The original intent or original history. Through the interpretation of the words or phrases, we interpret it into a way that supports what is commonly good at the time. Fundamental principles. By going back and interpreting the fundamental rights, we interpret it to the common good in mind. To what extent, if any, has the court promoted both common good and individual liberty? Textualism demonstrates common good through the simplifying of the Constitution into layman terms. Original intent and original history. To what extent, if any, has the court promoted both common good and individual liberty? Textualism demonstrates common good through the simplifying of the Constitution into layman terms. Original intent and original history. I'm a fucking nerd. It's probably a bad idea to listen to music while doing this, but yeah. I might just record a couple like different attempts just with bloopers and cut them out later through editing. But yeah, this is definitely a blooper if that's the case. I'll upload the bloopers like later on onto like a YouTube channel or something. Why do I listen to mellow bars? I look like the nerdiest white boy. Fucking listening to ASAP Mob. I didn't even know. The look. I will embarrass the shit out of my children whenever I have that. Happy Halloween.